You're live.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Homestead HQ, where we talk about homesteading and preparedness. My name is Shelly, and we've got Brian Dudley with us here tonight. He's from B Homestead Radio. And then, just as always, we got Jason sitting over here, and he's going to tell you about some of our sponsors.
Yeah, we're mixing it up a little bit. We wanted to go live to get some people riled up, some more people riled up about the festival, and get your butt in the seat there for the workshops and for the tickets, and also the charity dinner. We've still got some seats available. The charity dinner, if you're going to buy your tickets, you need to buy it tonight, because we have to turn in final numbers tomorrow morning for the girl that's doing the food. But hey, before we get started with Brian and talking to him, I wanted to hit two of our big sponsors for the show is VacMaster. It's vacmasterfresh.com. They've got a tremendous sale right now. I think it's their fall hunting sale. They've got an extra 15% off chamber sealers. I think 30% off tables and 15% off their knives and stuff like that. But you can stack that on. Use the coupon code Homestead. You'll get an extra 15% off your order. They're gonna have a chamber sealer on it in our raffle at the festival, so you can buy tickets for that. And then also Signature Solar. Use the code Homestead. That'll save you some money on your purchase there. And Signature Solar is a stand-up company. They donated a bunch of stuff to Grindstone for the hurricane. And they will be live and in person with their products at the festival Saturday and Sunday. And I know they're going to have some coupon codes for some extra money off for the show. So guys, come out to the festival, see those guys, support those people. And when you support those people, you're supporting us and letting us do this show twice a week. But we paid the bill. So now we've got Brian with B Homestead Radio. Brian, I just got back from East Tennessee, Western North Carolina. You sent us some stuff down there. We used all that stuff. It was cool. Tell everybody kind of what you sent down there to us. I opened up the box of goodies and I was like, ooh, I would like to take this home with me, but I did not keep any of it. So,
well, what the need that was relayed to me by you was they needed handheld radios. They needed HTs. Because you had teams going out into the field and were working on 2 meter, 70 centimeter, and GMRS frequencies. So they needed radios to do that with. And with the shortage of power up there, what we did, we sent radios that could be charged for USB ports. And then we sent solar banks. So you could charge the solar banks during the day and then plug it in and recharge your battery as well. So you didn't have to use the wall wart chargers all the time. And we sent a supply of those up there to get that out, because that was the only form of communication they had going at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, even before this, cell phone service is spotty up in those mountains. And then cell phone service was horrible when I got there. I told my wife when I got there, I was like, hey, cell phone service is crap. I could get on Wi-Fi every now and then and do some Wi-Fi calls, but essentially making phone calls was crappy. Text would go through decent, but I would say probably 90% of the time I was there, I had the little SOS thing on my phone, the emergency only kind of deal. But yeah, the comms was amazing out there. And I'll kind of recap on some of it. The protocol out there was if you went out anywhere, you had to go with somebody else. There wasn't any, running around Rambo style by yourself. But when you went somewhere, they had to know where you were going, and you had to establish comms before you started doing any work. If you couldn't establish comms, you had to take a comms guy with you, and he had more equipment and everything like that. So he would set up and establish communications back with the fob, and then everybody in the team also had their handhelds. And then if you were going out to do saw work or anything like that, we had a medic with each team, and it was already predetermined your grid squares that you were going to be working in, and they had it. The helicopter pilots knew, where you were at. They knew the closest landing zone. So God forbid if something happened and they had to do a medevac, the communications was set up. They knew where they were at, and they could get a helicopter there in minutes to your location to save you. So that's kind of the plan that was set up with Grindstone, and it was an amazing plan. It worked. We had comms set up all over the place, even when the cell phones weren't working.
Well, that's that Saturday morning, a local ham, and let me reach up and get his call sign. Kilo 2 Delta Mike Golf, K2 DMG, got on the repeater that's up there. And that repeater was 145.350 and started broadcasting. And that was their communication links right there.
Yeah.
That set it up. People were radioing into him, and he was relaying messages, getting messages out. They were doing welfare checks. People were asking, where can I get propane? Where can I get gasoline? And other people were contacting him, say, okay, you can go to this corner. This store has gasoline. This store has propane.
Yeah.
And again, it was all through radio. And my understanding is they're still broadcasting up there. They moved to a different repeater, 145.190. And if you'll go to Broadcastify, you can listen to that repeater, because that's how we were listening to it to hear what was going on up in that area. And he did a fantastic job up there. Yeah. But it was all through the radios. And one of the things that we need to stress is it doesn't matter if you've got a $400 ICOM or you got a $30 Bofang. If you don't know how to use it, it's not going to do you a bit of good.
Exactly.
And that was one of the lessons that they learned up there. People had radios, but they didn't have them programmed. They didn't know how to program them. So basically it was just a brick.
Yeah. And I've put it in there before and told people, there was one guy that I was trying, he's a retired Ranger, and I was trying to talk to him, and he was like, I've got the radios. I'll figure out how to use it when the time comes. And I told him, I'm like, would you do that with your AR-15? Would you just buy it, not even load it, not even do anything, and just set it by your bed and wait for somebody to bust in your door and then learn how to use it? He's like, well, no, that's stupid. And I said, what you told me was stupid also. And it kind of clicked with him, but he still didn't do it. So,
yeah. Radios aren't plug and play.
Yeah.
It's not like your phone where you've used something similar before. You can turn it on and start punching a couple of buttons and it works.
Yeah.
This you don't, because it works off of frequencies or channels. And you need to know, if I need to talk to you, Jason, I need to know what frequency you're on or what channel you're on, before I go out. And because that's what your comms people did.
Yeah.
They knew what frequency or what channel, depending on whether you were on ham or GMRS, that you were going to talk on. So you could make communications and you could talk on the radio.
Yeah. And the thing is too, and before we get too deep, there's a big misunderstanding. A lot of people are like the sad hams, and everybody's all the sad ham, and it's all the ham radio operators are old curmudgeon 80-year-old guys that ride in hover rounds. And when you try to do something, they're going to jump all over your butt. And that's not the truth. I think the oldest guy out there working comms might have been 50-ish, mid to late 50s was the oldest guy that I saw out there working comms. I'm not a young guy anymore. I think I am in my head, but I'm 46 and I've got my general license, and I'm as not by the book as they come on ham stuff. So I follow the rules most of the time, but don't get into that mindset. It's a bunch of old curmudgeon guys. They're out there, but there's people like me that'll bend the rules a little bit if we need to.
Well, and that's like the guy that was doing the repeater. It didn't matter whether you were a licensed ham or not.
Yeah.
If you got into the repeater, he was going to take your information. He was going to help you do what you need to do. And in an emergency, the rule says you can use the radio whether you're licensed or not.
Yes.
Right. I never thought that, like Brian said, or Jason said, that it's a bunch of old curmudgeons or whatever. I never thought that about ham radio stuff, mainly because my brother is a ham radio guy and he's younger than I am. But the thing that about me is it's always been kind of intimidating because there's so many rules about it. And then you have the equipment, and the equipment is like my brother builds his own stuff. That's totally intimidating to me because I'm like, I'm going to end up frying myself if I turn this thing on or whatever, just because electricity and I don't get along. But the thing about the workshop that we're having at the festival, I have been to Brian and Susan's class, and they are going to explain it to you in a way that you understand. It's not like they're really good at not assuming that everybody has all the information and just assuming that everybody doesn't have any information, and they talk to you at that level. Now, I mean, I'm sure if they figured out that they had a bunch of professionals in the class, they'd ramp it up a little bit. But if you're intimidated by the whole radio thing, this is the class that you need to come to, because it's not that they take the intimidation out of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They make it where you can understand what you're doing. And even if Brian explains it all to you and you sit there and go, I don't even understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Yeah. He will use different words and he'll make sure that you understand it. He makes time for questions. Him and his wife are great with this. And
Susan will explain it if you don't understand it from Brian.
Right. Exactly. And she makes it very not intimidating.
Yeah, she gets that teacher voice going. She spent 42 years as a teacher, yep. and she'll get the teacher voice going. And we remember when we first started out, you have to learn the language. And we would be at a ham club meeting, and they'd start using all this language and stuff. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? We don't know. We don't understand because they use a lot of abbreviations and all that. We try not to do that. We try to break it down for you. And like Shelley said, we're very open to questions.
Yeah.
Because we remember how hard it was to get started. And that's why we do these classes.
Yeah, exactly. And ham radio I mean, not necessarily just ham radio, but GMRS, any of your radio communications, they saved lives, and they're still saving lives over in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. And that's just what's going on right now. I know there's all kinds of other instances where lives have been saved because of radio communications. This is not just a one-off thing of it's like, this thing happened, this 1,000-year flood, and we needed comms on it. It's everyday crap can happen to you. The cell phone outage we had several months ago.
Yeah, that was it. There was a guy and his family that was driving across Death Valley, out doing the touristy things. Their car broke down. He was a ham radio operator.
To break down.
Yeah, not a good place at all because it was 100 and something degrees out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got on his ham radio and reached out to somebody in 5 states over. Somebody heard him, responded to him, and through a chain of other hams, they got to the Park Service and got somebody out there to find him.
That's amazing.
Because his cell phone wouldn't work. They had no cell service where they were. And if it hadn't been for radio, they possibly could have died. Because it was that hot. They had no supplies with them, no nothing.
Yeah, and that's an everyday occurrence. I mean, granted, I'm not driving around in Death Valley every day in Kentucky and stuff like that, but I mean, there's all kinds of instances to where you could use this. That's why I want to build our comms for our group a little bit more than what they already are. I'm wanting everybody in our group to at least get their general license. I mean, because then it opens up the HF capabilities to where we can talk longer distances. I checked, like Shelley and I, we know the mileage, how far we are away, but I looked at, we need a 150-foot antenna at each other's houses to do 2 meter. And I'm like, we're not ever going to get that. Let's just do HF stuff. So that's one of the big things that we're going to work on more as a group is getting everybody licensed, getting everybody the equipment, and then practicing. I want to do it once a week, have a net with the KSL members once a week. We'll set it at a certain time, and then we get on there and practice because it is a perishable skill, right, Brian?
Oh, it is. It is. I know when Susan and I aren't on the radio, we do a lot of what's called parks on the air. So we go out and set up in a national or state park with our radios. And that's kind of in an emergency type environment because you're putting your antenna up. But we're out there working the radio. And if it's been a while, it takes a few minutes for my ear to catch the call signs again.
Mm-hmm.
And things to start flowing. So, and that's usually on HF. But what you're working on, the 2 meter side of it, a lot of people have 2 meter nets out there. They run the high frequency nets, and you've got to practice it and develop what's called a pace plan.
Yeah.
For communications, you have a primary mode, an alternate mode, a contingency, and an emergency mode. So when you get out there and your cell phone doesn't work, well, what am I going to use then?
Yeah.
What have I got available to me?
Oh yeah. I'm really thinking about getting a couple satellite phones. After we got a company that donated 2 to let us use when we were out there with Grindstone, and they were a lifesaver. Those guys were using those quite a bit, and I got to get over the price tag first.
Yeah, well, now what Susan and I carry are SpotX.
Yes,
they're satellite text messages devices.
Yeah.
The Garmin InReach is another good one. And so that is an alternative to that. It does require a monthly subscription fee, and you get, all that type stuff with it, but it works. It's not instantaneous like it is on your phone. It takes a little while because it's got to go up and come back down again.
Yeah.
And, but that is an alternative, and the GMRS license that you were talking about, that's a $35 license that you just get from the federal government. No test required. You go in, you register, you pay them the $35, and that is good for the whole family.
Yeah.
All right? That's good for the whole family.
Yeah, and Evan did donate a bunch of radios too. So I never did see him out there. I was hoping to see him out there. So
good, because they needed all they could get out there. And with anything on radio, you got to practice to use it. You just got to practice with it. And see what works, because you go to Walmart and you buy the little radio in the blister pack and it says 25-mile range. Yeah, well, if you're on a lake or standing out in the middle of the desert, it might get 25 miles.
Yeah, might.
In a normal environment like the rest of us, you're probably looking at 1 to 2 miles realistically.
Oh yeah. And Jody Weapons Junkie said he learned Starlink was a must. That's something else that I've got to get over. The initial price on the Starlink's not bad, but I got to get over that $120 a month thing.
Yeah, that's pricey. With this coming up, we've talked about getting a Starlink, but I think they've got, if you go with the portable one, isn't there like a $60 option?
I'm not sure. I was checking on some of it, and I know the one I was looking at was like $120 a month, and I'm like, man, I just can't do $120 a month for emergency stuff right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, Lawrence popped up in a comment. He came to your last class that we had down here in Bowling Green, and I mean, Lawrence is singing your praises. He bought radios, and I was talking to Lawrence the other day, and he's like, man, he said, Casey and I, because he was worried about him and his wife. I'm going to the $50 roam. Oh, I need to talk and see about that.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you. If that roaming option is a lot less expensive.
Oh, we might be making Starlink a call tonight. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lawrence, and back when I was talking, Lawrence got some radios from you, and he was worried about Casey and their daughter being able to talk back and forth, and he's like, they've already put foot to butt on it, and done it, and they made contact with it, and they know it works for the stuff that they wanted it to work for. And he's like, we already got that figured out.
Yeah, because the class that we ran a couple of months ago, we actually had some people stayed at the base camp, and then we loaded up in my truck and went out in the field and to see where the radios would work, what kind of environment was it working in, and what kind of environment would it not work in.
Yeah.
Then we brought people back, and then we swapped over and took the next group out. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people had a learning experience and said, well, I thought it would go a lot farther than this. And then some of them said, well, I didn't think it'd go this far.
Yeah.
But a lot of it has to do with the antennas.
Oh, yeah. And that antenna that we set up, I mean, the one that we set up on the building was horizontal, and it wasn't even vertical.
Right.
And I mean, it was doing pretty stinking good job and it was just a little bitty mag mount antenna was all it was.
That's it. And then we actually used the rubber duck antenna that came on the radio, and then we switched over to a mag mount.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the rubber duck antenna wouldn't work, but we had the right adapters, and we could hook it up to the mag mount that was on top of the truck.
Yeah.
And actually, we had a $20 mag mount sitting up there that worked great.
Yeah. And y'all were just running handhelds in the truck, weren't you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Just $30 Bowfangs.
Yeah.
Is what we ran.
So, I mean, imagine what it would be if you had a mobile in your truck and a real nice antenna on your truck and a real nice antenna back at your house. I mean, you're going to do a heck of a lot better on range that way. I mean, y'all just kind of hobbled everything together to play around with a lot of it.
Right. Something that would be portable that you would have in your car with you.
Yeah.
That wouldn't take up a whole lot of room and was not expensive. And that was one of the keys. Ham radios, like any hobby, you can spend as much money as you want to on it.
Yes, you can.
And you can get real deep into it.
Yeah. And Lawrence said he was impressed with the 100 watts in the wire. Talk about, kind of tell them what you did with the HF setup. No, nobody. Well, Mark. If Mark ever throws a throw bag for an antenna, you need to get back because that man will kill you.
Yes,
For real.
Yeah, your aim wasn't real good either, if I seem to recall right.
But I didn't try to kill anybody though. That's the thing. Mark was out for blood, I think.
Yeah, no, you just kind of launched it about 3 buildings over. That's all. But what we did on a regular ham radio, we were using an ICOM 7300, I believe, at that time. I make antennas, in-fed antennas. They're about 62 feet long. And you use an arborist throw bag, put a line up in the tree, pull the antenna up at 62 feet long, connect it to the back of the radio, boom, you're talking. You don't have to have the big towers and the big massive antennas like you used to see. You don't have to have that to be effective anymore.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, what you see with the guys that have the big antenna arrays and stuff like that, they're doing a lot of DXing. They're doing the longer distance stuff. Yeah,
they're going for Japan and Australia and England and over into Russia and places like that. If you're wanting continental U.S., wires are fine. Now, I've talked to Canada. I've talked to Spain, Brazil, Jamaica on that 62-foot wire and 100 watts.
I was going to say, can't you just, like if you just have what you're talking about, that 62-foot antenna, can't you like use other people's antennas? Don't they have that set up somehow, like a network of those antennas across the, like if I wanted to talk to you in Alabama or something like that, I wouldn't be able to do that directly, but I could through a network of antennas. Don't they do that?
What you're talking about is a linked repeater system.
Okay.
Which would be on the 2-meter side. Usually those are linked within the state only. So you couldn't get down to me. Now they do have something out there that's called D-Star, which is an internet-based communications,
Okay.
So yes, you and I could talk. We could join the same chat room and talk over an ICOM radio and do D-Star. And then they do the same thing on another format called DMR.
But like if the grid goes down, you're not doing that internet-based thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why I don't focus on that. I mean, it's out there, it's available, but we try to keep things simple, for people. And it doesn't matter if you're using this $30 Bofang, it works fine. The secret to radios is the antenna.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a few differences on the front end and things like that. The reception will be a little bit better on a more expensive radio, and you'll sound better across it. But to learn. Hold on, they're talking to me. And that's another form of communication that you can use. Zello.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done that at work before, but we had it for our first responders at work, but we had issues with it. It didn't always work great, and we needed something that was going to work in an emergency. So
sometimes Zello goes down. I know when Helene was coming through and Milton was coming through, I had a Southeast regional Zello net for my group that I'm a member of, and it stayed up for 24 hours.
That's good.
And then we had members checking in. But it does require the cell tower. So if the cell towers get wiped out, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, running back to the your 62-foot wire and your 100 watts, I'm more focused on, I could care less about doing DXing and talking to somebody in Japan or Australia. That's just that's not my jam. My antenna that I've got up for HF, I literally put it up with an 8-foot step ladder in between two trees, and I was hitting 500 to 600 mile radius around Bowling Green. And I'm like, dude, that's good enough for me. And you can replicate that too. I mean, you could literally take that and set that antenna up anywhere, just like you and Susan are doing the parks on the air.
Mm-hmm.
You can set that thing up. Once you get proficient at it, you could set an antenna like that up in less than 10 minutes and be rocking and rolling in 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, and it works well. And depending on how you put that antenna up, you can stretch out across the United States. Like I said, we get to Canada and other places on that wire, or you can go within that 3 to 500 mile range.
Yeah.
INVIS, it's referred to, near vertical incident skywave antenna, and you run it more horizontal, so the radio signals bounce up and come straight back down again.
Yeah.
And it works well, and especially if you're in the mountains in the real hilly areas, you can use that and bounce over the top of that mountain where your 2-meter radio wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But your HF rig would.
Yeah, and it's amazing once you get in and start looking at all the different stuff you can do, and you can be frugal about a lot of it. I mean, I know a lot of the guys, they can take, pretty much any piece of wire and make an antenna, and hell, I mean, you could take barbed wire if you really wanted to and make you an antenna with it. It might not be the best in the world, but you could figure something out with it.
Well, that's it. As long as you know the math formula.
Yeah.
For what frequency you want your antenna to work on, you can take electric fence wire and do it. You can take regular Romex and make an antenna out of it. So yeah, anything you want. There's some YouTube videos out there of guys using bed springs to make an antenna with. The guy wires holding a telephone pole. I don't recommend that one. But they've done it. They've used all kinds of different things to see what works.
Yeah. Shelly, put a link up to Brian and Susan's class, can you?
Sure.
So, Brian, and for everybody that doesn't know, the festival is this coming weekend, the 26th and 27th. Friday before the festival, the 25th, we've got workshops. Brian and Susan are doing an emergency communications workshop there. It's an all-day class. They're gonna pretty much take you from essentially not knowing too much about radio stuff to where you're proficient in building a communications plan for your family or for your group. We've also got Chuck Peoples is doing a half-day wound closure and a class. He's going to do sutures, staples, the Closex, the new Closex bandages that they've got. Leslie Gossett is doing a half-day herbal class, medicinal herbs. Those two classes, you can take both of those because one's in the morning, one's in the afternoon. And then Grumpy Acres is doing an all-day canning class. So go to the website, check those out. It's KentuckySustainableLiving.com. Check those out. Sign up for those. It's going to be awesome stuff. But Brian, kind of tell people what they can expect when they walk into your class. If Joe Blow walks into your class and he's like, the only thing I've ever messed with is one of those little bubble packs when I was 10 years old.
Right. We will basically, like you said, take you from not knowing anything to having a basic knowledge of it. We provide radios. You don't have to bring your radio. We will give you a radio and we show you how to program the radio. We talk to you about antennas, little radio etiquette on there. We send and provide sheets with links on there. So if you want to get your GMRS license, well, you go to this link to get it. And if you want to do it right there, we'll walk you through all the steps to get that license. Okay. At the end of the day, we have some people that are coming in that want to test. We have one person that's taking the class that sent me a message and said, "Hey, will you be offering the ham radio test?" I said, "Yeah, if you want to take the test, we'll be glad to give you the test at the end of the day." And so we've got that one person that's taking the class is going to test. And I think we've got one or two people that have taken our class previously that are going to be testing. Yeah. Shelly, you coming to test with us?
So that means I have 7 hours to study and then I can come to
Yes, you'll have 7 hours to study. The big and let me touch on one point with that. And I get blasted a little bit about this, but I do it anyway. The test, when you pass the test and you get your license, that's your learner's permit.
Right. It's the beginning.
It's the beginning. And then you rely on people in the ham community, your Elmers, as they're referred to, on teaching you ham radio. You know, and we're out here. We get email messages from people that have attended our classes. Say, "Hey, I'm trying to do this and it won't work. Why?" We respond to them. You know, that's what we're here for, is to help you through the stages. You know, we can point you in the right direction if you want to get licensed. You know, where's the best place for me to go study to get licensed? You know, you've got ham radio prep. Guaranteed to pass? No.
So I'm going to tell you right now, you are not guaranteed to pass.
No.
And I am witness to that.
You have to put the time in. But now our emergency radio class that we're doing is not a test prep class.
Right.
This is how to develop a PACE plan for your family for communications, what's involved with that, how to use the radio, how does the radio work? What's my environment? I'm in an urban environment. Well, you need to kind of do this information in an urban environment. Well, I'm out in the country. Well, we can do this. We've helped groups set up communications between in-town business and out-of-town location. You know, my homestead's out of town, but my business is in town, and I want to be able to talk to the two. Yeah. Well, we've worked out a plan for them to be able to talk to the two and make it work.
And it worked pretty good because I was there when you were setting it up and setting some of it up, and I was sitting there when the guys were running around at their different spots and calling back in. And it was pretty cool. And they've got from their place to the business and everything. I was like, this works pretty good.
Yeah. And it's fun. We enjoy ham radio. We get out and do a lot of stuff with it. we, like I said, we go out and do parks on the air. It's something she and I like to do together. We go out, especially when we're traveling, and we'll stop at a state park, set up, make a few contacts, talk to different people across the country, pack the gear back up, get back on the road.
Yeah.
And we were looking, and there's no park close to Bowling Green that's on the list. Mammoth Cave State Park, I think, is the closest one.
Is
It's closer to me than it's closer to Jason.
Yeah.
Is Barren River State Park, Barren River Lake not on the list?
I didn't see it.
Well, I don't know. That's one thing.
Because I think my brother's ham radio club does stuff out there.
Well,
We'll look it up.
One thing that I want to do is do some parks on air stuff. I've never done it. It seems fun to me, but I run out of bandwidth on doing that stuff. It's like I've got to make it a priority.
Well, yeah. And we do it, one, because it helps us stay in practice setting our radios up in an emergency communication situation, because the larger, the 100-watt and smaller ham radios, the HF rigs, all run on 12 volts.
Yeah.
So we're out there with a 30 amp hour lithium ion phosphate battery. We'll talk all day long on it.
Yeah.
And then we were at an event a couple of weekends ago, and we were spending a lot of time on the radio. Well, we had a couple small solar panels that we just hung up and charged the battery as we were talking.
Yeah.
Never ran out of battery. So but it's stuff like that we teach in the class. You can do this, you can do this. It doesn't cost a lot of money. And used equipment, go to Ham Fest, which are like ham radio flea markets.
Yeah.
You can go out there and buy used equipment.
Just don't get run over by the hover rounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the thing. The first Ham Fest I went to was up in Cave City. And I looked at my buddy. I was like, I found my market. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm going to buy a bunch of hover rounds and rent them to these dudes at the Ham Fest. And he was like, that's wrong. He's like, but it's true. You might make some money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll tell you this, talking about buying stuff at Ham Fest, both my HF rigs that I've got are both used. I bought them used and saved a good amount of money on them. There was nothing wrong with it. My Yaesu 450 that I've got, I don't know how old it is, but it's got some years on it. But the guy that had it, he still had the original box, all the paperwork, all the packing with it, and he had taken and had a whole notebook of notes and stuff that he had written in there, and anything he had done with the radio. I'm like, this is better than brand new. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, this guy, there's like half a notebook full of notes and stuff about that radio. And I'm like, this is pretty stinking cool.
Well, our first radio was the Yaesu 450D also.
Yeah.
We owned that radio for 2 years, and we listened on it for 2 years before we got licensed.
Yeah.
Because we could not find a group in our area to help us get licensed. We knew nothing about it. We knew we needed radios, and we just did a little bit of internet search, said, Yaesu, okay, this is in my price range. So off we went.
Yeah.
And so you don't need a license to listen.
Exactly. And I mean that's the big thing. I mean, coming kind of full circle with this, doing this kind of stuff. And these are skills, every skill that you gain is something that's going to keep you alive in a grid down situation. This is just another tool in your toolbox. And I mean, honestly, stressing everybody's looking right now, the election. Everybody's like, oh my God, what's going to happen with the election? Get your ass to class and figure out some of this stuff. And I mean, you can figure some of it out, and you can get radios sent to you before the election. I mean, Lord,
if you show up to the festival, we will have a booth set up there at the festival with lots of radio gear in it.
Yeah. The tech, are they still doing tech license online?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can take your test online if you want to. You've got to study.
Yeah.
Got to do your own studying and everything. And then you can go online and do a test.
Yeah. And you got to have, I think one of my buddies took it online. He had to have like 2 cameras set up or something like that.
Yep.
So where you could see if you were cheating on it and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to have a lot of cameras on it.
Yeah.
And so that's most of our testing is done in person.
Well,
should be the license to talk. Well,
some of the stuff that comes out of Forrest's mouth, he needs a license to talk. So.
Don't be knocking Forrest.
Hey, Forrest, whenever Forrest drives through Bowling Green, he calls me and it's like, "You want to go eat lunch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So Forrest and I eat lunch every now and then together.
He's taking 2 kittens off my hands, so we're not bad mouthing Forrest.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, guys, get in here to this class. Yes, the economy sucks. We don't have a lot of money. I hear that all the time. I mean, it's the same way with me. I'm not rolling in dough, but this is something that can honestly save your life, and you can use this stuff every day. Come to the class, learn the stuff, get the skills, and then buy some equipment. Go down, take this workshop, figure out what you want. Brian and Susan can lead you along. You tell them, "Hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z." They're like, "This is what you're going to need." And they can get you a prepackaged system that you can leave the festival before the election and the boogeyman gets you, and you can go home and have this stuff set up.
And you'll have the understanding on how to use it. Because, civil unrest after the election is possible. All right? I'm not going to say I'm not going to say
possible either way this time.
Either way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's probable. A lot of people out there think it's going to be probable, but it's possible. And along with that, if it happens, they're going to shut the cell towers down.
Yeah.
Because that's how a lot of groups connect and plan activities.
Yeah.
Is through the cell towers. So if they shut them down or limit the cell towers, how are you going to contact your significant other and say, "Hey, don't go down Main Street because they're rioting. Go around it."
Yeah.
Because we all have our normal routes that we travel.
Yeah.
You go to work on the same route every day.
Every day.
You come home the same way every day. You go to the grocery store the same route every day. All right. And we know that. So if I hear on the radio, because we run a scanner in our house all the time. If I'm home and Susan's going grocery shopping, I know what grocery store she's going to. And I hear has been a wreck or something on the road. I can reach out on the radio because she's got it in the car with her and say, "Hey, go around 2nd Avenue. They've had a big wreck there."
Yeah.
Same thing with if we have civil unrest coming up after that and the cell towers aren't working, this will work.
Yeah.
But you got to know how to use it.
Well, I'm like 95% certain that the people, after what happened with Helene, the people that are left in Eastern Tennessee and Western North Carolina, if they are able to rebuild, there's a lot of skepticism about that, but if they are able to stay there and rebuild, more than likely they're going to have some radios because they have seen the importance of communication in an emergency firsthand.
Yes. There was a guy, and Jason, you have to help me out on this, on one of the mountains up there using a 5-watt, $30 Bofang.
Yeah.
And got help for his family up there.
Yeah. I forgot how many were in that group, but it was a group of several people, and he was using, the $30 5-watt Baofeng, and he was able to save all those people and get supplies and get help up there where they needed it. So I mean that right there shows you spending how much is your life worth, and how much are your kids' life's worth and stuff.
Right.
I mean, you'll go out to dinner and drop $100 for you and your family to eat dinner, but you won't drop a few $100 to save your kids or your wife's life. I mean, or you'll go buy that new Gucci AR. and do that. I guarantee most of the people on here have enough ARs and enough ammo that they don't need another AR, that they need to spend some money on their comm stuff.
Yeah. And comms goes right along with it, because if you're out doing the things, you got to be able to talk to the guy that's doing the things next to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you're going to use communications far more than you're going to use a gun.
Right.
So, I mean, when I was over there, pretty much everybody was carrying a gun on them, but nobody was using their gun, but everybody was using their radios.
Exactly. Yeah, it was Little Germany.
Yeah.
Up there. Was that that was Weapons Junkie that posted that? Was some of that you hiked up there, was that the stuff that Evan donated from
Yeah, he took a load of stuff from Evan from Radios Made Easy. Yeah.
I couldn't, my stuff came up later. I couldn't get it there in time to help. We were actually out of town when all of that happened.
Yeah. But as soon as I told the guys that were unpacking all the UPS and FedEx and everything, I was like, there's a box coming with my name on it. Let me know when that stuff comes. And as soon as they got it off the truck, they hollered at me and were like, hey, come up here. So I ran up to in the talk and gave it to the guys, and they were like, cool. They started opening everything up, getting stuff programmed, and they're like, we're going to send all this stuff out. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's what it's here for. Go.
Yeah, because I even sent a programming cable with it.
Yeah.
Particular radio, so they, in case they didn't have one, you never have too many programming cables.
Oh no.
They could hook it up to their laptop and download their standard frequency program into that radio and make it real fast to hook up.
Oh yeah, and I mean, pretty much everybody had radios on them, and that was the way. Most everybody with Grindstone was communicating. Of course, everybody was talking, using cell phone and stuff too to talk back, to the house and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, a lot of that stuff couldn't have happened without radio communications, whether it be GMRS or whether it be ham radio. To the Grindstone phone. Okay. Yeah.
He said the sheriff deputy hiked it up the mountain. It took 3 hours for a 4-mile trip.
Yeah. Oh yeah, little Germany was cut off big time on a lot of stuff. I mean, they were having to hike stuff in most of the time, and I don't even know if they've got a road in there yet or not. So, but yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on in Little Germany. It was an effort to get stuff over there. So I didn't go over there. I wanted to go, but I just ran out of time, and I was doing other stuff. So.
That's like us. We were actually in Middle Tennessee when a lot of this was going on, and had obligations there, and then had to come back, and we couldn't make the 5-hour drive from where we were over to there to help run comms like we wanted to. But then when we got back here, we found out, we can do some stuff here.
Yeah.
That's when we started talking to you and found out they needed HTs. So we boxed up a bunch of HTs and sent them up there. I've got another friend that's up there right now with another organization. And he's called me several times because their comms people weren't there. And I helped him get on frequencies and get some radios programmed over the phone. Because he was at their forward operating base, their FOB. And we worked with him on getting them set up and taken care of.
Yeah. So Weapons Junkie says the beautiful thing was all of us rallied together, lots of people, the church, we the people. It was a blessing to see so many pitch in so many ways. And that's when I read that, I posted one of Bear Independence videos on my Facebook page where he was talking to a guy. He was talking to Billy. It was the interview that he did with Billy from Permapasture Farm. And at the end of the video, I think everybody is upset with the reaction from this hurricane happening and the lack of action, I guess, and not, help not coming in and all of that. But Bear started giving just testimony about all these amazing things that he saw God do while he was there. And I think that we have to, Like, we know that the government's not going to help us, right? Like, everybody, if you're watching this video, if you're on this, I know that you two know, but anybody watching this video, when stuff like that happens, you can't count on them. You're not going to count on them, but you're probably going to be able to count on God's people. And just having those people come in and have your back and watching him move through all of this, it doesn't matter what the government does or doesn't do, because he's still in control, right?
Yeah. And God was working over there. It was funny. We were setting up in the talk. One night we were there and we were all kind of talking. And a couple of the guys prayed. It's like, Lord, we wished we had some more generators. And I kid you not, like 30 minutes later, somebody came upstairs and they're like, this guy brought like 12 generators and he wants to come up and say hi to y'all. So like this guy came in and they're like, God answered that prayer right then.
Yeah.
Well, 12 generators showed up a few minutes later, and they're like, this is amazing. Everybody had goosebumps and everything on them when that happened. But I saw that happen a lot. People were pitching together, and to be honest with you, I don't know what that would look like if like all the people that are talking on here, Joe with Weapons Junkie, people like that, I don't know what state that place would be in if those people did not do what they did.
Right.
So I can guarantee it wouldn't be as good as it is right now, and it's still not super good the way it is right now, but it would just be horrendous if it wasn't for people, your private citizens doing stuff.
Well, that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
People didn't rely on the government to take care of them.
Right.
They relied on the community and their church.
Yeah.
You had problems, you went to the church, your church, and it would help you.
Yeah.
Your community will help you.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to be active in the church and active in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, guys, we're coming up on an hour. Jason, we've already talked about the different workshops that are going to be happening on Friday, but the workshops are actually separate from the festival. We would love for you to come in and come to one of the workshops and then come to the festival. But the festival is going to be the 26th and 27th on Saturday and Sunday. The doors will open at 8:30. The first speaker starts at 10. We're going to have, on both days, we have tons of vendors and all different kinds of stuff. We always try to make sure our vendors are like selling, that they have preparedness stuff or homesteading stuff, handmade stuff, all of that kind of thing. It's not going to be like a yard sale type thing or a Tupperware party or whatever. Not knocking those things, but we want to keep with the homesteading and preparedness theme. We've got several speakers. I'm going to run through the list just real quick. We've got Sean Terrio that's going to be talking about using your electronic devices but not being plugged into the matrix. We've got William Bond who's going to be coming and talking about the permaculture homestead, and then he's also going to be demonstrating how to build compost. We've got Angry Prepper from New York who's going to be talking about bugging out of an urban environment. Leslie Gossett is going to be there, and she's going to be doing herbal walks like she has in the class. She's our resident herbal person. We love her. Jeff Smith is going to be there, and he's going to be talking about, I've kind of been not saying the title of his thing right. He's going to be talking about how to prepare for those people like in your family, your friends that are on the fence about preparedness. Like whether you're going to take time to prepare for them if they come to your house. Because how many times do we hear, oh, well, if this happens, I'm coming to your house. Yep. And we're kind of like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Bill Stoker is going to be talking about homestead security. Chuck Peoples is going to be talking about prolonged health care. Byron Russell, he's going to be talking about drone defense. We've got Erica Anderson and Dylan Searcy from Chronically Healthy. They're going to be talking about healthy living. Barbara Sue and Philip Kowalski are going to be talking about beekeeping. Brian and Susan, Brian right here. Brian and Susan, his wife, they're going to be talking about ham radios and why you need them, just like we've talked about right now. Local Prepper is going to be talking about Homesteading 101. Randall White, who is Flomaton famous, is going to be talking about tree grafting. Callie Blackwell is going to be talking about, oh, doggone, it just left me. I just wrote that thing down today. So
she's going to be talking about how to be a hooter bandit.
Maybe. No. She's going to be talking about alternative holistic health. Okay. And then Dawn Gorman is going to be talking about the family milk cow and raw milk and all of that kind of stuff. And Jason, why don't you tell them about the dinner on Saturday night?
Yeah, one of the big things Saturday night, we're having a charity dinner for Caleb House, which is Bear Independent. It's one of his 501c3 charities that he does. They take victims that have been in trafficking, rescue those victims, and they give them a house to rehabilitate themselves. He's building a facility right now somewhere in Oklahoma. They're trying to raise as much money as they can for ongoing operations and to build that facility. So that dinner is Saturday night at 6:00 at the same place the festival's at, prime rib dinner. Go to the website. There's a drop down that says charity. Click on it to purchase your tickets. Tonight is pretty much the final night to buy your tickets. You're not going to be able to buy those things at the door because we have to tell her tomorrow morning how many people are coming. So if you want to be a part of this, go and buy your ticket tonight, and let's raise as much money as we can for Caleb House, because I personally can't think of a better place to give money to.
So we're also going to have a guy from Yardbird who is going to come in and do chicken processing demonstrations both Saturday and Sunday. If you don't know how to do that, you can come and learn that. And Jason, am I pointing the right way? Nope, I can't ever get this right. It's always backwards. Jason, the guy right here, right there, Jason. Him and William Bond are going to be doing a talk where they're going to share what they saw, what they encountered, what happened when they were at Eastern Tennessee. And I think William went a little bit into Western North Carolina working with Grindstone Ministries. So they're going to be sharing that. So you'll want to come and hear that as well. You can get tickets on our website, KentuckySustainableLiving.com. If you go right now and get those tickets, you can use email 25 code, email 25, and get your tickets for $25. If you wait until the festival, you're going to pay $35 at the door. Children 17 and under are free.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Did we cover everything?
Yeah. And guys, go sign up for these workshops, whether you do it. The best one, I think, honestly, and that's why I've got Brian on here, and the most urgent stuff is your communications plan, just because of kind of what we're looking at. If something goes screwy after the election, they shut the cell phone down and all that. But that's the one that I would sign up for. If you're just going to do one, do that one, because it's probably the most prevalent right at this minute. So, guys, we appreciate it, and we will see you Friday, hopefully. And if not, we'll see you Saturday and Sunday in person. Brian, thanks a bunch.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
All right. And we will see y'all later. Good night.
Good night.